Hey, my name is Matt Storr and I repair saxophones for a living. And today I'd like to show you the Conn 30M low C sharp mechanism. This is an extra dorky video, but one of the things that makes the Conn 30M really, really special is that they kind of completely redid the left-hand pinky table. And I've done a video about the 30M and the 26M, but you can't really see this that well when the horn is together. So I'm doing another 30M right now, and actually the first thing I do when I overhaul a 30M, when I'm actually ready to start doing pads, is the low C sharp. So it's a good opportunity to see it off, or on the horn with everything else off, so you can really see what they did here. And I'll compare it to other horns. So, because I find it myself a lot of times talking about this as like my favorite low C sharp, or like, one of the reasons the Conn 30M is really cool. One of the reasons that the Conn 30M, when it's operating correctly, should feel better than pretty much any other left-hand pinky table. So, anyways, but it's hard to describe. So I wanted to go ahead and make a video that I can link people to. So here is the low C sharp. This is the touch piece, and it's on this long, unusual, like teeter-totter leverage here that connects with the actual low C sharp that's on a pivot rod, and then that is, in its normal spot on the horn, right? And that pivot rod there is actually in front of the posts for the right hand stack. So the right hand stack, there's a rod that runs between all these posts here. And those keys sit on here. Here's where the adjustment feet sit for a 30M. And then those keys actually go over top of that rod. And that's one of the reasons the C sharp is the first thing you got to put on, because everything else goes over top of it in the lower stack. So that's really, really unusual. And the thing that's cool about this is that this amount of leverage here means that the C sharp is really, really easy to actuate. I mean, you can see like my finger, right? You can see that it's barely deforming to press that down, right? If I press on something even just a little bit harder, right, you can see that my finger changes shape. But on this, like, not really. It's very, very easy, very, very smooth. Now, typically the travel is stopped by a G sharp, so it wouldn't like hit the post like that. But it moves just a little bit to open up the key a fair amount, right? Get a lot of venting from this key, which sometimes can be hard to do on C sharp. And the coolest thing is that this can be sprung pretty tight and not have it be difficult to actuate, right? Now, you may have experienced, if you've got a horn, particularly if it's sealing very well and it can contain the pressure wave as it rolls down. When it gets to C sharp, sometimes, especially like subtoning on a low B or B flat, or even a low C, this will vibrate open at the same frequency that you're playing. And it doesn't like kill the note, but it weakens it a lot and gives it like this secondary sort of like, fluttering sound. And a lot of times you're limited with how strong you can make this spring, because a lot of times this is basically directly connected to a very short leverage for your C sharp. So the stronger you make this spring, you feel an equivalent increase in pressure on your C sharp touch piece, which is also usually pushing down your G sharp. So you kind of are limited as far as like making things feel good if you have to keep making that spring tighter. But on a 30M, you really don't. You can make the spring as strong as you want, and you're still going to have a very light feel over here because of the massive amount of leverage that Conn has given you in this design. Now, if we were to compare this to a more regular design, we can see the difference. Now, sometimes they're one piece, sometimes they're multi-piece as far as the linkages. This is a Zephyr Special. This is a multi-piece linkage. Got the C sharp. We can see it's on a fairly short arm, right? So we're already not doing very well leverage-wise. And then it comes over here and it's got this like pivot for the C sharp key here. So this is a three-piece, which is slightly unusual. And this requires a fair bit of force. It's actually probably my least favorite thing about my favorite saxophone, is that the C sharp just takes a lot of force. With everything is super, super smooth, everything is free of lost motion, everything is operating exactly how it's supposed to, it's still not the world's best C sharp. It doesn't have to be a showstopper, but it's not great. And then if we take a look at a one-piece design, on this SML, we can see the C sharp here, and it's actually just one really long arm, and this is a pretty common design, that comes to the C sharp and is directly attached. Now, this is actually a pretty nice design because it's got a really long leverage. These posts are way, way out, and that was specifically so they could have a long arm here and have a really long leverage for that C sharp. Also, SML has another trick where, they've got that little tab where you can switch to where it, actuates G sharp at the same time or doesn't. And especially when that tab is not on, that's a really, really light C sharp for a fairly decent amount of springing. So that is the Conn 30M low C sharp. It's a really, really interesting design. I mean, it almost feels like this is what they designed the left-hand pinky table around. This is so different. We'll get into the rest of the left-hand pinky table in another video, but it's just a very unusual mechanism. I don't believe this exists anywhere else, and it's one of the things that makes the 30M and the 26M really special, is that, they just feel so good. In the left-hand pinky table, it still has the same shape as a 10M, but it feels really, really good. And if you've got a 30M or a 26M in good condition, it's probably going to be the lightest C sharp, left-hand pinky table C sharp that you can find on any horn. So hopefully you found that helpful, useful, informative. My name is Matt Storr. I repair saxophones for a living. Thanks for watching.